overrated. Yeah. I'll wait a little bit for another day.
Dimitry, can I do the introduction?
I might borrow Nancy's trick. We had lunch, you guys just heard 2 talks. Why don't you stand up and stretch out a little bit and get some blood moving on. All right, that's enough. Sit down. Don't overdo it. Okay. So today, what I'd like to share with you is a 10-year data set. It's not 10 consecutive years. There's an early period and then a more current period of sampling of lake sturgeon on the lower Niagara River. This project, my office, the Lower Great Lakes office, does a lot of the work in the field on it, but we collaborate a lot with Jonah's office in terms of data analysis, aging, the fin rays, and there's a lot of collaboration, just discussions on this. I feel like, well, let me just get into it. Okay, sorry about that. So here's the Niagara River. It's a connecting channel. It flows northward from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario, and it's divided in half by Niagara Falls, which poses an impassable barrier to fish going upstream. The separation from the upper river and the lower river basically divides this river into 2 distinct ecosystems. The upper river has very different physical characteristics than the lower river. The lower river is, for half its length, is a deep gorge with steep walls, and then it widens out, which the velocity slows down. But all along its length, it's much deeper habitat than the upper river. And so, as Jonah said, there were remnant populations up in the upper. There were also remnant populations in the lower. And in the 1990s, our office started to collect sighting data. And what this sighting data suggested is that there may be more fish out there than anybody suspected. And so they began a program starting in 1998 to sample and monitor this population. We have 3 of the early samplers in the room today. Tom, Emily, and Scott all worked on this project back in 1998 to 2003. And so then there was a period where there was not much sampling done, and once the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative provided extra funding, we were able to build capacity and start the program up again in 2010. And we've been sampling there from ever since. What I'm going to try and share with you is our conclusions from two sets of data. One of the sets of data is our mark recapture data, because we're ultimately trying to see how big this population is. And the other set of data is our age data. We want to see how healthy this population is, what recruitment looks like, and things of that nature. And so that's what I'll focus on today. Our methods, we collect our fish using set lines. These set lines are around 250 feet long. They have 25 baited hooks on them. We set them in the morning, we leave them out overnight, and we collect them the following morning. When we collect the fish, we collect all the normal biological data, length, weight, girth. We take a spine sample for aging, and we do tissue for genetics. And each fish is scanned for marks or tags, and we apply a pit tag to uniquely identify them. And so jumping right into data, we have here our capture and recapture data. And so in this first column, you see each line represents one of our sampling years from 2010 to 2016. Next to it, you can see our unique captures. You know, it's pretty variable. We've had good years and bad years. A lot of it, we don't really understand why we're catching more sometimes and not other times. It does seem to be related to the length of the winter. When there's a really long winter, we tend to have a shorter period of high catch rates. And so they just sort of come in the river and then they get out faster. Next to that, you see a matrix that shows our recaptures based on when they were captured. So, you know, this first line here is 2011. We had one recapture that was caught in 2010. And so you can see what our recapture rates are for each of these. And then this last column shows our total. It's pretty interesting, right, when you look at this. You know, we catch 10 or 11 fish each year, no matter how many fish we put out. So I mean, you know, we caught 10 fish here and there were 300 fish in the population. Now there's 800 fish. Guess what? We caught 11 fish. Very, very bizarre set of data here. And so on the bottom here, you can see some of the summary stuff. We had 809 fish totally collected with 54 recaps. If you look at that as a whole, that's 7% recapture rate. You hear that a lot in sturgeon literature. You don't get a lot of recaptures. But if you start looking from the right to the left, you see that this is increasing. The cumulative years that we have to catch these fish, the higher our recapture percentages on that group of initially tagged fish. And so when you're doing, in my opinion, when you're doing population assessments, you want to have a really high recapture rate. Something like 25% would be great. If you could have a couple years at 25%, I think you could generate a good population estimate. And so we're not there yet with any of these. Even still, we were able to go ahead and run a model to do a population estimate. And it seems fairly reasonable. Doing the CGS model, we have 88% survival from year to year. I bet it's higher than that. I think, you know, this model has difficulty separating survival and catchability. I think down there it says our catchability is 0.03. I think that's probably high. You know, we're not getting a lot of recaptures. But even with these, you know, substandard estimates, we believe that the population is somewhere around 7,000, between 6,000 and 10,000. And so this is great. This is really encouraging news. That's a large population of fish. So looking back at this recapture rate, I looked at our 2010 data, and so right here represents the dot for 2010. This is in 2011, we had, you know, 3%, and it keeps going up. And so this is a pretty clear linear relationship here. When you add in the other years, it still holds. And when you fit a curve to it, when you fit a linear regression to it, you get a pretty good fit, a nice R value, and you see your slope is about 3%. So every year, every consecutive year that you sample your initial plug of fish, you're going to increase your cumulative recapture rate by about 3%. And so, to me, this is significant because, like I said, I want 3 years of over 25% capture probability, recapture. And so that's putting us around here. So that means 7 years. You have to sample a plug of fish for 7 years to get to that level of recapture. If you want 3 years, that means you have to add a couple years onto that. So you want to study sturgeon, you want to get a good population estimate, you're looking at this data, you're guaranteed a 10-year experiment, a 10-year study. So the next set of data that I want to look at is our aging data. And so what this plot here is the year of capture on the x-axis and the estimated age at capture. And so this is where I included some of the early work to show, you know, when they were out there sampling, they were catching a lot of young fish. They didn't catch all that many old fish. And, you know, we look at what we're sampling now, and most of our fish, you know, are between 10 and 20 years old here. The variability hasn't really changed. The range seems pretty similar. We don't catch that many young fish over here. They caught several young fish. And so that was something that was very interesting to us. We actually went ahead and fit a regression to the, okay, there's supposed to be the slope value here. So we went ahead and fit a regression to that data, and it was significant. And the slope of the line was 0.85. So every year, the population's mean age is increasing by 0.85. So we started looking at that, and we're like, what does that really mean? Like, what would we expect it to be? And so, you know, as a group, we discussed it and came up with a bunch of scenarios. If it was 1, that would mean nobody's dying and nobody's being born. This population just increases by 1 every year. If it's 0, it means as many fish that die are being born again. And so it just kind of stays there. And so what does it mean to be in between 1 and 0? What does it mean to be closer to 1 or closer to 0? And so what we think is if you're in between 1 and 0, you're saying that you have low mortality, but some recruitment. So you have enough recruitment to bring it down from 1. You're not losing a lot of fish either. And so we thought that this was really interesting, and it kind of led to this idea like, okay, well, what is our recruitment then? Because we aren't seeing these little guys, you know, what's happening? And so to look at recruitment, we took the ages and estimated their cohort years, so when they were born. And from this, you can sort of see that, you know, there's not a lot of old fish. This is still, you know, the period of time where the population was not very, very large. But suddenly, we have this 10-year period of really good recruitment. And then, you know, we don't catch many fish from these cohort years. And so I've shown this figure several times, and people always ask, well, what do you think happened? And so I kind of threw some things in here. 1972, it gets listed. So what this did was it protected the adults coming in the spawn. So now these fish that come into the river, they have a little bit more protection. Right here is when sea lamprey sort of really picks up, and in my opinion, controlling sea lamprey controls, impacts the survival of lake sturgeon that are less than 5 years old. So now survival of these juveniles is increasing. And then 1990, zebra mussels show up, bottom mussel. And so, you know, based on stuff from Oneida, they show that these smaller sturgeon, not juveniles, but, you know, subadult sturgeon are using zebra mussels as a food source. And so here, now we suddenly have this big food source for them available. But then, you know, what happens over here? How come we're seeing this drop? And so in 2002, round gobies show up in the lower Niagara River. And so whether that's really causative or not, we don't know. We aren't really at the point yet to make that statement. But when I showed this, I always told people, well, we don't catch young fish. You know, our gear is selective. The Detroit River, they've shown that the gear can be very selective for a certain age group. And so we wanted to look at our cohorts by year of capture. And so what we wanted to see is we wanted to see that same group of fish, you know, this 92 to 2002. We wanted to see that same group advance. So every year we should have this big plug, this big pulse of recruitment should keep advancing every year. But what we're noticing is if we shade out from 2002 on, there's nothing happening. You know, back in 2011, yeah, we're not catching fish in 2002 because they're 9-year-olds. We just don't catch 9-year-olds. But those 9-year-olds in 2015, those are now 12, 13-year-olds. And look, back in 2011, we were really good at catching 12 and 13-year-olds. So it's not our gear. They're not there. We look for them. We're doing the methods are consistent across the board. So this was very disturbing. But there's a golden ray of sunshine of hope here. Since 2013, we've been observing the sex of the fish that we handle. We've been doing it either through gamete expression, ultrasound, or cutting them open and doing a biopsy. And what we've noticed is, starting in 2012, we had one black egg female. Then in 2013, we had more. In 2014, we had more. Every year, it keeps going up. And so this group of fish, that 10-year pulse of high recruitment, is now reaching sexual maturity. And they're coming back, and they're spawning, and they're reproducing. And in 2016, we deployed egg mats, as they do in the Detroit River. And we collected 23 eggs. We brought the eggs back and they hatched. So these eggs were successfully fertilized and were able to survive. And so, yes, there may be a gap in what we're collecting with the adults, but there's evidence now that that big group of fish is sexually mature, and hopefully they can, pick up the torch and carry it on for the next 10, 20 years. And so, my conclusions are pretty straightforward here. We had that strong for 10 years, we had a strong year class there. The population is fairly large. I mean, everybody's very surprised and encouraged when they see how many adults are out there. But we have something happened in 2002, whether it was a lack of spawning stock or whether it's Goby's impact on egg survival. We're not there yet. We don't know. But as I said, we have some hope. These females are going to continue to reproduce each year, and hopefully for the next 10 years, we have this big pulse again of recruitment. And so some of the very easy analysis that I did here is very useful for management. I think, we like I said, we can talk about now how many years of high intensity sampling you got to do to get a really accurate population estimate. We have evidence now of what year class strength might look like. I was personally surprised that we didn't have blanks in that cohort distribution. I thought we'd have good years and bad years, but when they were good years, they were there every single year. There were no blanks there. And so I think that's really, really good information to show for a healthy population there. And look at this little guy. How awesome is he? So with that, I'd just like to say thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Have you tried heading off the confluences of Niagara River down into the Ontario for juveniles?
For juveniles?
Yeah.
We did very briefly, and we didn't catch any. We caught 2 adults. We did it one season, and we have plans to do that. And I guess, what's missing from here is what are our next steps? And our next steps are to really develop a younger sampling protocol, looking for more juvenile fish, looking for more egg deposition, things like that. Up till now, we've really focused on the adults.
So most of the tributaries, the sturgeon are just they're seasonal, they're not there year-round, and especially juveniles, they take off into the lakes. I wonder if that's where the juveniles are.
Yeah. It's interesting. We have telemetry data on our adults, and they really treat that wider section of the lower river like an extension of the lake. They spend a lot of time in there, but they also hang out real near shore to the mouth right there too. And I'm guessing that, there's probably juveniles there. I also think a lot about what Cam did up in where is he, Saskatchewan?
Winnipeg River.
Winnipeg River, yeah. I mean, I think about, our river is really deep in the middle. I'm wondering if the juveniles are down there, because we don't fish down there.
So, you and I have talked a lot about that. 10 years of just shifting the food. How bad is that? Do we have any theories as to what happened to that? They had parents. Those 10-year classes had parents. Those parents should still be there just based on age.
That's right.
So what the hell? What happened?
I know, I agree. And that's what's really curious is during those 10 years, we don't see those parents, but then, the sudden drop in 2002 of recruitment makes me think like, well, maybe those parents died or took off, or, you know, were they so old, this was like their last hurrah, and they got, they could, yeah, that would be really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. There were a couple of really bad botulism years back then too. That's something I should try to correlate. Well, maybe not.
Okay, you mentioned you pull out some eggs. Is there a way to control the sex of the eggs as you hatching them?
Oh, I'm not a.
What you can with seed
Yeah. I'm not able to answer that. I don't know.
Anybody?
Yeah.
What was the question?
To control the sex of the eggs through.
Like you can with
Like
temperature
temperature.
with
Yeah.
a sea turtle, because you're obviously your female numbers are low.
Yeah.
Something that somebody's looking at.
You know, there's always going to be more males than females in
Yeah.
the spawning cohort, because of periodicity.
Yeah. And the numbers that I showed for those females, I don't want that to represent how many females are coming back. I mean, we catch less than 3% of the fish in the river.
But it would still makes sense
Yeah.
if you could have females go back out,
Right.
then it would help you.
It could be a benefit, sure.
Somebody looking?
All right, well, thank you very much for your time.